Legend of the Swamp Thing, Halloween Spectacular, issue 1, or a title similar to that at the very least.
I actually think you got it right, but it was a very dense read. This wasn't it?
Well, I'm going to confess something here. I didn't read all of it.
Oh, did you not?
I started it, and I really liked the opening because it's Ram V writes the wraparounds, and I liked the first batch of pages, which was the story of the sheriff and some others looking for a lost kid in the woods. And I really love Swamp Thing kind of finding the kid wrapped up in the vines of this tree. And the tree's kind of alive, and you got this face in the tree, and it's kind of this ethereal stuff that I love about Swamp Thing. This idea of the trees like talking and sort of like almost like it's in pain or and in sorrow and talking about trying to keep the kids safe. So it's not necessarily trying to do something bad, but Swamp Thing basically sits down and tells it some stories, and that's kind of what leads us into what the other stories in the book are.
And the idea in this first page that he sends the kid back out, but then we see it's still just he's got a skeleton there.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a reconstruction in the same way that often Swamp Thing is, right?
So, but then it goes into these stories, and it's stories from different periods of history. The first one's the Romans and Britannia and like Stonehenge and all that stuff. And I read this story, and first of all, I thought the art was pretty bad in this story. Just so I put that there.
What? No, not at all.
The faces in this are horrible.
I don't think they're horrible. I think they're very different. They're not doing the standard thing.
That Caesar dude who says "lost," for example, a couple of pages in, his face in that panel is atrocious.
He's got a very square face, but I don't hate it.
This is, and even the panel under that, he's got this like really undetailed pointy nose.
I'll give you the nose on that one, but that's all I will give you.
I did not like the art in this story at all. I thought it was a dense read. Like it took a long time for it to become even relevant to anything Swamp Thingy, right? So and not that that's a problem per se, but I came into this book thinking, oh, I'm going to get an anthology of Halloween Swamp Thing stories, and I was all excited for a bunch of Swamp Thing stories. And I read this one and didn't like it at all. And then I got to the start of the next one, right, which is by Via Alea is the next one. And, I typically like their work.
And Emma Rios on art.
And Emma Rios on art. And it looks really good. But I read the first, 2 pages of this, and I was just, in the style of storytelling that it was, and it was going to be another kind of this period piece, and it was... And I got to the end of the second page, and I thought, I'm going to look ahead and see kind of what the next couple of stories look like. And just to see if I wanted to read them. And I looked ahead, I skimmed through the rest of the book, and I had no interest in reading the rest of it. So I just quit there. I just backed out.
I really like this. This is not... Swamp Thing is a little bit of a misnomer to describe this. It is the protector of the green through the ages, right? Or champion of the green, I suppose, I think is the official term. The Vita Ayala and Emma Rios one, Emma Rios' art, which... I've been a fan of in the past, but I don't think it had dawned on me how similar it was to what was the Hill House book?
Which one?
Oh, the one with the 2 girls.
Oh, Lola Woods?
Yeah. I was getting major vibes like that, and I don't know if it was the colours as well. Jodie Belair's the colours on this. I don't know if she did Lola Woods, I don't remember. She might well have done, judging by how this looked with those flat colours, the oranges and the reds. It really reminded me of that visually, which I liked.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could tell me about the rest of the stories because I didn't read past the.
Yeah, the one after that we had. It's that story of the Japanese soldier on the island who doesn't know the war's over, basically. But he has a Swamp Thing companion in a plant who is with him and is talking to him and is constantly trying to prod him, like, hey, maybe the war's over. Maybe you should go out and explore the world, and see for yourself. And it goes on decades, and there's farmers there, and this Japanese soldier is thinks the soldiers are thinks the farmers are the enemy soldiers, and starts trying to fire on them. And that's when the Swamp Thing has to actually step up and stop his companion, his friend of decades at this point, stop him from taking out the innocent villagers. It's quite tragic. It's a really solid story, actually. It's really good. That's Julian Little with John Timms on art. I really like the art on this. Very expressive. Not a lot of Swamp Thing. Most of the time, he's like just a flower in a boot. But it's really good. Um, and the next story is actually Tynan with Christian Warden art, which looks gorgeous. I don't know who's on the colors for this, but uh, I think it's just Christian Ward doing his own colors. It has such an ethereal vibe to it. Like the greens, the reds, they're so standing out, not vibrant, but soft, almost watercolor esque the way they blend. All this war, it's like a kind of like piratey story. This abandoned on an island, rescued on a ship. It's all about it's set. Oh, if this one gives a year, it's quite a long time ago. Age of Discovery is what it says, and it's all about just finding the new world and finding themselves and the green kind of expanding to the new world. It's again, the art is the showcase on this. Oh, it does have a year, 1494 AD for that one.
Okay.
So it's all about that new world discovery. It's gorgeous, and that's when you get into the final wraparound with Ram V and Mike Perkins again. I think Mike Perkins, he's been. We tend to like Mike Perkins' art, but I don't think he's always suited to necessarily the right stories that he's given.
Oh, it's perfect for Swamp Thing.
Oh yeah, because we had him on Green Lanterns for a while, and in the right scenes in that book, at the end of that book, he was fantastic. But in other scenes, hit or miss. But in Swamp Thing, he is phenomenal, and he has some layouts here at the end, kind of that forgoes traditional paneling, where there's just faces popping out of silhouettes of the various Swamp Thing creatures and fists and hand, such thing. And I think this is probably my favorite work I've seen from Mike Perkins, where he does those just like 3 pages like that. They are absolutely phenomenal, just gorgeous. You read this wraparound? Did you skip to that, or did you not bother?
No, I didn't think, because I assumed that because it was a wraparound that it would play upon the stories.
It actually has like no relevance to the middle stories whatsoever. It's just referencing the middle story. It's like 30. It's not the first story. It's just referencing that. It's like 30 years later, and it's the same. The kid who he saved is an adult now, and is lost in the swamp once again. And it's his final moments as he dies in the swamp, and it kind of repeats that that poem, so that rhyme that Swamp Thing or the tree says. We kind of have that again, and Swamp Thing trying to learn the lesson from the tree, kind of trying to understand life. Essentially, that's kind of Swamp Thing at its core, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the point. This wraparound is very much linked together. It's not really 2 separate stories. It's one story with a 30-year time jump, which I'd recommend you going back and reading this final section, if nothing else.
I probably like it because I like the first part of it.
Yeah, I'd say go back and read this because it does follow up on that and doesn't reference the rest at all beyond just the fact that it kind of references that stories were told.
Yeah, I think part of this was expectations of what I thought this book was going to be, and then realizing it wasn't, and just being like, I don't want to read this.
I was actually pleasantly surprised by this. Swamp Thing Through the Ages appeals to me more than just I think what it was is they were so different from each other, as opposed to a Swamp Thing anthology where everyone's trying to do their 10-page horror Swamp Thing story. While I might like all of those stories individually, in a 50-page issue, I might kind of get a bit bored of them. Kind of all kind of just do the same kind of thing. Like, here's my quintessential 10-page Swamp Thing. Whereas by doing this, giving them folks over these different time periods, so drastically different, it wasn't necessarily Swamp Thing, but more like, say, the Champion of the Green.
I mean, if I'd liked that second story more, but I hated the art so much, and the story didn't do much for me. But
it's probably my least favorite art in the issue, but that's not that I think it's bad. I think that all the others are pretty fantastic, with the exception. Exception sounds harsh here, but the one with the Japanese soldier, I think John Timms is solid. Like, I think for me that's on par with the Roman one. Like, it's not bad, but it's not like standout. But compared to like Emma Rios and Christian Ward, and even Mike Perkins as well, I think all of those are standout artists on their stories, whereas the other two are just like, yeah, I mean, the art's fine.
Sure. Well, what are you rating it then, I suppose?
I mean, I think I'm going to give it a 7.5. It's a little bit disjointed. Like I said, I think I would have liked, if we're having a wraparound story, I would have liked a bit more connective tissue in that, which would have probably bumped it up to the 8. But as it is, all of them are pretty solid.
All right, cool.